Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. Now, back in December 2017, I made that video for a 3x3 piston door. Now, judging by the viewing figures, not many of you have seen that video, but nevertheless, periodically I go through and I try to check to make sure that all of my previous builds work in the current versions, and that was built back in the day. Probably when Observers just came out. So I've not checked it recently, so I've started checking it the other day to see if it worked in 1.14.4, and it does, but I got thinking that it's a little bit laborious, it's a little bit big. It uses a T flip-flop with some droppers and hoppers and lots of redstone, and to be honest, it was a little bit chunky, and I'm not a big chunky fan. So I decided to give it a makeover, and this is what I came up with. So the basis of it, the main part of it is it's a hipster door down the bottom. I think it's a semi-hipster door because you can still see the piston at the top. A full hipster door, you can't see anything when you stood at floor level, but obviously if you're stood here, you can see that bit of redstone. So it's like, I think it's a semi-hipster door, but it's the one that most people use. I mean, I've been using it for a while. I don't know who originally came up with this design. I do apologise, but it's fantastic. It's probably the easiest way to make a 3x3 piston door. Certainly the easiest way I've found anyway. So it's based around that mechanism there, like an S, which is the hipster door, semi-hipster door mechanism, which forces the two blocks up, those two up there, to form the bottom part of the door. This is where it all got complicated with my old design around the side of it, and I've simplified that loads and loads. And also the buttons were out here, they were a little bit further away, and they used a line of redstone that went down here into a T flip-flop that toggled the on-off switch down the bottom there where the note block currently is. So I've simplified this no end, and I've got two versions of it which I'll show you today. The main mechanism itself is exactly the same for both of them, but you can either use a button or you can use a note block. It's entirely up to you. I like the idea of the note block because as you're running towards the door, you can just hit the note block and it will open and close, and you haven't got to worry about being bang on a button. If you're being chased by something big and nasty and you run up to the door and you try and press the button and you miss it, you press the block by mistake, then whack, you smash your face in and you get eaten by what's behind you. So I've got a couple of ways to open the door, but as you can see, it's really quick. Yes, it's noisy, but it uses pistons. What do you expect? It's a piston door. It's very quick, it's very smooth, and also if you take out the opening mechanism, the opening switches, this thing is only 1 block wide. That is amazing, even if I do say so myself. The old one I did had bits and paraphernalia all round the outside of it, but everything above the level of the floor on this door is only 1 block wide. And the advantage of that, I can hear you asking, what's the advantage of that, Frills? The advantage of that, it's funny you should ask that, I'll tell you. The advantage of that is that now, if we put a wall here, building with Frills, we put a wall here like this, the door itself is only 1 block in from the outside wall. Now there are lots of them out there that come out to here, and my old one came out to here. You needed a 3 wide gap in here in order to get all the redstone above ground. On this one you don't. Maybe I'm making a big thing about this, but I think it's phenomenal. Do. Brilliant. So I mean, the old ones and the other one were great if you were inside a big tunnel and you just had a 3x3 piston door built into a tunnel, but you couldn't really put it in a house as a doorway through into another room because you had to build it out to here. And you had like a little tunnel to go through. It was like walking through some kind of some kind of airlock to get from one room to another. Well, that's just... Who wants that, I ask you? Nobody, that's who. So anyway, this is the this is my 3x3, new 3x3 piston door, which is in 1.14.4. It won't work in Bedrock, okay? Before we start building it, anybody who's watching that's playing in Bedrock on console, PS4, Wii, Switch, everything else, it won't work, okay? Please don't put in the comments, will this work in Bedrock? Will this work on console? No, it won't. The simple reason for that is it uses the mechanic where the sticky pistons drop the block, and this is a Java feature. It won't work in console. You see, it pushes the block out because it's receiving a 1-tick pulse from this observer here. It drops that block. In console, that doesn't happen. It'll fire it out and it'll pull it back in again. So this won't work in console. Don't waste your time watching the rest of the video. Actually, watch the rest of the video anyway, but don't try and build it. So now I've shown you this, I'll show you how to build it. So the materials you need to build this thing, you'll need a couple of blocks of your block of choice. I'm using andesite just to make it easier to count blocks, for you guys to count blocks. You'll need the blocks for the door itself, the 9 blocks that make up your 3x3 piston door. If you wanted to put an illuminated block in the middle, you can do. Use glowstone or sea lanterns. You can't use a jack-o'-lantern because the piston would obviously break it. If you're using a note block as a button, then you're going to need 12 sticky pistons, 5 regular pistons, 13 observers, 1 repeater, and 7 pieces of dust, and 3 note blocks. If you're using a button to open the door rather than a note block, you're going to need 2 more sticky pistons, so you'll need 14 sticky pistons, but you're only going to need 3 normal pistons and 11 observers. So it's slightly different, but to be honest, just get yourself half a stack of everything, you'll be fine. So when you've got all your gear, you need to dig a hole. You need to find out where to build this bad boy. So you'll need a hole that is 9 blocks by 3 blocks, and you'll need to dig down 4 blocks. Okay, I've made this hole a little bit bigger to give myself a little bit of working room around the edges, but you're only going to need 9 by 3, and you'll need to dig down 4 blocks. You'll also have to build up 5 blocks. Okay, so your piston door will come up to there. So bear that in mind when you're building this. You will have to come up above ground level 5 blocks. Now you need to find the centre of where your door is going to be. So there's the centre of our door there. I've marked it with diorite. You can mark it with whatever you like. You don't have to mark it at all if you don't want to. And then just to the next, just next to that block, you need to put down a note block. Now the note block is going to be on the same side as your opening and close buttons are going to be. So if you want your opening and closing buttons to be on this side, then you're going to put your note block on this side and mirror what I'm going to do here. If you want your buttons to be on this side, then you want your note block on this side, and then just carry on doing what I'm doing. Okay, so you've got your note block next to the center block there, and then you want to crouch, and you need to put yourself down 2 observer blocks like that, with the redstoney part this side, the smiley face detection part just here, and then stick yourself down a solid block at the end like that. Now jump up on top of your note block. You're going to need to put down an observer, so you'll need to crouch. You'll need an observer block there, and then a solid block on top of that like that. Then on this observer block next to it, you're going to need 2 sticky pistons. So 1, 2 sticky pistons like that. Now on here, you're going to need a repeater on 4 ticks facing into your sticky pistons. Very, very important. This is on 4 ticks. If it's not, it won't work, okay? And then next to it here, you're going to need a blob of redstone dust. Now you're going to need to get back up on top of your sticky pistons and then crouch and look at your repeater. Now you need to crouch. If you don't crouch, you're just going to change the tick rate of your repeater. So you'll need to crouch, and on top of there you'll need to put an observer and then another observer like that. And then you want to take out your sticky pistons, put a sticky piston facing this way like that. Now on top of these blocks here, you can stick yourself down 2 of your blocks that are going to form the centre, the bottom centre, and the centre block of your door. Those 2 blocks are those 2 blocks there like that. So now we've got this far. Now it's probably a good time to give it its first test to make sure that it's working properly. And all you need to do is to come down here and tap the note block. So if you tap the note block and that happens, then you know it's working. If you tap the note block and that doesn't happen, then I'm afraid you're going to have to rewind the video and start again. Now we need to grab yourself your block of choice again. You need to put a couple of blocks there and there, like that. These are going to be visible at floor level, so make sure they're a nice block. Now you want to take out some more of your block doors, you know, the 9 blocks that are going to make up your 3x3 piston door, and you want to put 3 there, and you'll need to put 3 there. Okay, that's what it's going to look like when it's open. Now you want to take out some temporary blocks. You need to put 2 temporary blocks there, like that. Okay, then you can pop that one out, and then you need to put a sticky piston just there, sticky piston underneath it, and then a sticky piston underneath that one. And you can break that block. And then you want to do exactly the same on the other side. So it's 2 temporary blocks, break that one, then sticky piston underneath. Break that block, and now you should have something that looks like that. Now it's time to put in the redstone that's going to power this side of the door. But before we do that, take out all of the door blocks. Okay, before we start putting redstone in, take out all of the blocks that are going to form your 3x3 piston door, because some of them get powered. And if they get powered before it's all complete, it's going to start pushing the rest of the mechanism about, and it could quite easily push things out of whack. Okay, so take out the 9 blocks, the 3 blocks down here, the 3 blocks down there, and the 2 blocks in the center, the 8 blocks there that are going to form your door. Just get rid of them, and that way, when the pistons start firing, nothing's going to get pushed out of the way. Then get yourself in the hole. You want to put down a solid block, a bit of dust. You can see the pistons starting to fire. You're going to have to put down a solid block, and then a block. And on top of that block, you'll need a regular piston. Then you'll need to put down a temporary block. And on top of that temporary block, you're going to need an observer. And then on top of that observer, you're going to need a solid block. And on top of that solid block, you're going to need a blob of redstone dust. Okay, really, really simple. So it's blob of dust, solid block, normal piston, temporary block. That temporary block now can be broken. You can take it out. You can see the pistons firing, and if we had blocks there, they'd be all over the place by now. Then you've got your observer block with the redstoney part at the top, then you've got a solid block, then you've got your redstone dust. Now you get to the side that's got your note block on it. Now this is very important, because this side is slightly different to the other side. Okay, so this is the side with the note block on it. There's the center, there's the note block. This is the side that's opposite the note block. Make sure you've got these the right way around, or it won't work. So you get to the side where the note block is, and you need to put down 2 solid blocks like that. And on top of those solid blocks, you'll need 2 pieces of dust. Then put down another solid block there like that. On top of that block, you'll need a standard piston. On top of that piston, you're going to need another temporary block. This is going to be removed in a second. Don't forget to remove it, because if you don't, it's going to push everything up, and you don't want that. Then you're going to want an observer block on top of that. Then you want a solid block on top of the observer, and then a blob of dust on top of that solid block. Okay, and then don't forget to take out that block. If you forget to take out the block on top of that piston, it will push everything up. It'll all be out of whack, and nothing's going to work. So the redstone at the bottom is very slightly different. The redstone on the side where your note block is there. The redstone on the side where opposite your note block is 1 block further down. Okay, so it's important that you get this right. So now you should have something that looks like that. Now, staying on the side where your note block is, remember that's the center, that's your note block. On the same side that your note block is on, down the bottom, you need to jump up onto the top of here, onto the top of this sticky piston, and then you'll need to put down an observer block on top of that dust. So you might need to jump, put an observer block there like that, okay, with the redstone part at the top, the smiley face part at the bottom. Then on top of this, the observer block, you'll need a solid block. And then coming off the side of this, you probably need some scaffolding by now, but I can fly back, so I'm not going to need it. You're going to need to put yourself down a normal piston, okay? Observer block, solid block, normal piston. Then put yourself down a temporary block just there. You'll then need to put down an observer block, again with the redstone part facing that way, the detection part facing this way, and then you want to get underneath, look up and put yourself down a sticky piston facing down. Okay, that's got to be bang over the top of that sticky piston. If it's not, then just double check it. All right, so above your dust, you've got an observer facing up, solid block, normal piston, temporary block, which we can now get rid of, observer, and then a sticky piston facing down. Okay, so now you should have something that looks a little bit like that. So now we can stick in the note block that's going to power this thing. So you're going to need to put a temporary block just there, like that, then a note block on the side of it, and then you can pop that block out. And then you need to jump back down inside your trench. Underneath your note block, you're going to need an observer. You're going to need to crouch, otherwise you're just going to tune your note block. So crouch, observer block like that. Underneath that observer block, you'll need a standard normal piston facing down like that. Then put a temporary block just there like that. And then you're going to need to dig down here just a couple of blocks, because we need to put another observer just there. And then fill in those two blocks like that and that one. But leave that one empty. Leave that one with a hole in it, because we're going to need to put some dust in there. And then take out this temporary block, okay, and put a blob of dust in there. So when you tune the note block now, it's going to activate the observer, which is going to fire the piston down, which is going to activate that observer, which is going to power that piece of redstone dust, which is going to power that note block. And as I mentioned, this note block powers the entire mechanism. So with this mechanism here, we haven't got redstone all the way over the back down here with all kinds of stuff, which we did in the old one. Perfect. Now, if you wanted the note blocks on the other side as well, just do exactly the same as you've just done there. Temporary block, note block, observer block, normal piston, temporary block, observer block, pop out the temporary block, and then dig out that hole and put in a blob of redstone dust. Do that on the other side and you'll have exactly the same. If you wanted a button instead of a note block, you're just going to have to do things just a little bit differently. So take out your temporary block again, put a temporary block there, and then the block that you want your button to be on, just there. Okay, that's going to be your block with your button on. You can put your button on there. You can put your button on this side as well if you want. It doesn't have to be on the inside. It can be on the outside of your door as well. And then you want to get back inside your trench. In here, you'll need to put a sticky piston facing down, and then back up a little bit, and you'll need to put an observer on that block facing this way, with the red stony part facing this way. Okay, sticky piston facing down, observer redstone facing this way. Now grab yourself a block and put it next to the note block like that, and on top of that solid block, put yourself down a blob of redstone dust. Okay, so now when you press that button, it's going to force the sticky piston down, which is going to power that redstone dust, which is going to power the note block underneath. So you may, some of the eagle-eyed of you may notice that those pistons fire just before those do. Yeah, it's not symmetrical. Now this might not affect a lot of you, but if it does, there's a way around it, but it's going to cost you a repeater. So if you've got an extra repeater lying around and you want these doors to open symmetrically, then just get yourself underneath your farm again, underneath your door again. You'll need to replace that bit of dust there with a repeater on one tick. Okay, so just pop that bit of dust out, put yourself a repeater in on one tick. It's being caused because the power's going through two observers here. So the note block is changing state. that observer block is detecting it, then that one is detecting it a tick later, and then it's putting the pulse through the redstone dust. So there's a 2-tick delay between the note block being activated and that dust getting power. On this side, there's only a 1-tick delay. Oh, can't get through. There you go. There's only a 1-tick delay because this observer block there there's only one observer block. There's 2 on this side. There's only 1 on this side. So by adding the repeater there and 1 tick, it's adding an extra tick. So now when we press the button, they extend at the same time. So now what you need to do is take out the blocks that are going to fill your door, and then you want to put one on the face of every one of these sticky pistons. So do those 3, that one, those 3, like that. And now you want to put one on top of that sticky piston and one on top of that observer. Okay, like that. And then you can fill in this block with your block of choice. That's going to be visible when your door's open, so make sure it's a nice one. Okay, and now when you press the button, your door closes. Press the button again, and it opens. Perfect. Now we can fill in all the way around the outside. Don't forget to jump down here and stick in some torches. Just spam down some torches because A, there's flashing redstone, so you don't want lag. It's going to be enough lag as it is with pistons firing here, there and everywhere. You don't want to increase it by having flashing redstone as well. And obviously you don't want bad guys spawning down there. So we'll do that, and then we'll just cover over the rest of it. Being careful when you're putting these blocks down, be careful not to cover those blocks. Okay, if you cover that block there, A, it's going to mess up your timings, your system, but B, it's going to push everything up that way and completely mess up your door. You'll finish having to start again. So now we just fill all around here. Like that. And then we can fill over the front, which is where your wall's going to be. And then we can fill in those blocks there, like that. Fill in around the top, and there you go. Really quick, really smooth 3x3 piston door. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like, and if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. And any comments, any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll read every comment and do my very best to answer as many as I can. So thanks again for watching. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.